I'm going to start off in a push-up / plank position where I'm kind of exploring and feeling where the tension is in my body. Adding tension by doing a push-up and then kind of exploring where tension may be. Let's do kind of an asymmetrical push-up, so I'm figuring out where the glitches are. I'm kind of actively seeking out the glitches in my shoulders, chest, back, hips, legs, ankles, feet. I'm using breathing to dissipate the tension in my body, keeping my body in a parasympathetic state as much as possible. Adding a little bit extra tension by changing hand position, because each of these positions of the hands will give a different feeling. In this position, I have this feeling in my right collarbone from when I broke it when I was young, 4 years old, so I could feel that pattern. Working with the pushing the hips forward, still adding tension in the push-up position. Stretching out the hip, adding a push-up in it. Right here, I'm exploring a glitch or a pinch that I have in my left hip, and I'm trying to see how I can work that place. And here I'm using a pain pattern interrupt to look for how I can release that pattern. Pain pattern interrupt, positional release, and figure out how I can move the leg on my own. Stretching out the glutes, or at least my right here, and seeing where I have this pain. My hips are really tight, and now I'm moving into a different position. Adding a push-up in there so it's a workout as well as a stretch. We're changing the neurology in time with pain pattern interrupts as needed. Pain pattern interrupt / positional release. Here I'm taking a moment because the right hamstring is extra tight, so I wanted to stretch that out. Moving the feet in more of a sometimes circles, figure eights, or side to side incorporates a parasympathetic type of movement that can distract the neurology from being able to let go of the tension in that area. Here was going into a squatted position and seeing how that range of motion in the hips are restricted. I'm kind of checking if I can add an internal or external rotation into the femur, or pushing the femur away from me, or moving the hip forward, or bringing the hip back. Here I'm grabbing the knee and doing some compression into the hip, which is freeing up the motion in the hip. And then I'm rechecking the internal external rotation to see how that has changed. So I'm using the positional release to work with that. And there, whenever I'm finding the glitches, that just the breathing and the stretching doesn't seem to be able to cut it. I'm working with the femur in this position too, or in a similar way. Paying attention to the cues as my neurology shifts. And as I do that, I'm moving through the range of motion. And I'm trying out a squat here. And just seeing how the movement begins to change. Trying to make transition to a squatted position. And in theory, there should be enough flexibility in my legs and hips to be able to transition without my arms. I'm using my arms through this whole exercise as a way to support me, almost like a crutch in a way, so I can stay in those difficult positions. So whenever there's a kind of a hump, or the body speeds up, or a movement speeds up, it's because there's a disconnect in what's going on physically, what's going on mentally in the body, and physically what's actually happening. So we speed up and we make choppy movements as a result. This, I'm adding a little bit more tension, spreading the arms out and the legs out. Tension in the body has to hold differently. From there, you can stretch out the hamstrings, the calves, and test the range of motion in the ankles. And there I'm kind of wrapping it up, at least for this video.